Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast with Ron and Kristin, where leadership meets entertainment. This podcast features stories with names and certain aspects that have been changed to keep submissions private. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast, where leadership meets entertainment. I'm Kristin Sokolov, joined by my co-host, Ronnie Ward. Ron, how's it going?
It's going great, Kristin. So many exciting things are happening.
Yes.
Someone literally listened to the podcast, reached out, and signed up for executive coaching.
I love that.
And they love the podcast.
You know, we really do have, I'm going to toot our horn right now, we really have something unique. And I'm hearing that from some of my followers that I send the podcast to. So it's so awesome to hear that, especially for you to be able to coach somebody based on what we're covering each week. So that's awesome, Ron.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are people who consider it their growth plan is the podcast is part of it. And I had a coach that I certified, and we're just in the middle of catching up. And she said, yeah, I had my new client listen to Extreme Optimism because they're always pessimistic. And I thought, wow.
Yes.
So that was only a few weeks ago. And that was her assignment to her client. So,
oh my gosh, that is huge. You know what's funny? That exact episode, my mom's like, did you talk about me on that? And I was like, why? My aunt shared the episode with her friend, and her friend told my mom that I talked about her on it.
That's happened to me numerous times.
Is that not funny? I'm like, well, I talked about the car accident, how she can be a little moody, and how I had to be like, be optimistic, go out there. It's just a young girl. Yeah, that happens. Our friends become subject matter, but that's okay. We're very tasteful, Ron.
And Kristin, we should probably mention episode 148. The Blake Lively versus Justin Baldini broke all records, especially on visual media, YouTube, Rumble. And I guess our audience is interested in Hollywood and a good scandal.
I guess so. I know. Well, that's what we'll have to work one in like every 6 weeks or so, or maybe even more frequently. It is interesting because, as everyone knows, I'm in politics, and a lot of the people that are into politics are also into pop culture. So it pairs nicely, even though one generally wouldn't think that.
Yeah, no, it's true. But yeah, I'm not the biggest Hollywood fan, but there's so many great lessons that we can take away that would enhance the podcast and our audience. So yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Ron, I want to start spicy because that's where we live in this podcast.
Okay.
When did leadership stop being about responsibility and start being about aesthetic morality? And I mean, Hims and Hers, the Super Bowl ad, okay? You watched the Super Bowl, I'm assuming.
Yes, partly.
Okay. Yeah, same here. It's like I don't even have cable anymore, so I was just watching what I could get. But there was that Super Bowl ad, and it was the commercial titled "Rich People Live Longer." That's not true.
That's a good point,
right? Like I see someone who's like good looking, and they're probably in their 70s, but I'm like they're like a rich 70, so they look 50, right? Like that is a real thing. But this company, Hims and Hers. This is not their first Super Bowl ad either, and it caused quite a stir both years.
Yeah. But I did have this image of someone right at the pearly gates, and they're being drug away, and St. Peter says, you were $100,000 short. You almost extended your life.
Oh my gosh. That's an interesting visual there.
That's how my brain works.
Oh my gosh.
All right, but seriously, folks, before we get into this, we do want to say that people have a right to do, if you want to use the diet supplements or anything else, you can do it. It's free country. But true leaders don't believe everything they see or hear. They do their research, they practice discretion, and they consider multiple perspectives before they form their perception. And we'll get into the emotional aspect in just a few moments.
Yeah.
But remember, guys, I had someone call me, Kristin, you'll like this because you're a big social media guru.
Yeah.
And they told me something that someone said, and I said, that didn't happen. Let me research that for you. And of course, it was just an AI generated.
Yeah.
But one of the most powerful tools that our children are going to need to have is discretion.
Yes.
And you got to know what's real and what's fake. So folks, don't believe everything you read is what we're trying to say.
Totally. Even my son, who's like 11, he'll go, "That's AI trash," because my dad will send him something.
Yeah.
Look at what happened, and he's like, "That's AI trash."
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to be discerning in this day and age. My gosh, that's crazy. All right, let's jump into it.
All right. So as usual, Kristin didn't ease into it, so let's get to it. Last year's ad, Hims and Hers, the theme was "Sick of the System," and it focused on addressing the obesity epidemic in the U.S. and criticizing the high cost of existing weight loss drugs while positioning Hims and Hers on treatments as more affordable alternatives. And by the way, folks, I do have an international crime story I'm going to share, so don't leave us. But Kristin, before we get into this, the one overreaching theme that I always see is never accountability. Like, hey, how about you don't supersize those fries in Big Mac and you take some accountability? But I digress.
I know. And the crime story you're going to get into is one that you had personal involvement in.
I had personal involvement.
Yeah, that will make it that much more interesting.
Yeah.
And you know what you were talking about? It's not outlandish at all. That what they did for last year's Super Bowl ad. And if we think back, those were the GLP-1s were really rolling out heavy at that point, no pun intended. And I really did not mean to pun on that one, Ron, but that was just a beautiful marriage there that took place. But what we're really talking about today is what happens when leaders hide behind a feel-good message while asking people to trust them with their bodies.
Kristin, you made it sound like I committed an international crime. I have personal involvement, not with the crime itself.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Perpetrator.
I'm glad you're following up on that. I could see how that came across. Oh my gosh. Okay, Ron, I want you to share a moment, and you can go into the story now if that's appropriate, but where you felt like when you first realized that leadership wasn't about optics, but consequences, maybe like in your early career, government coaching now.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stories. Everyone knows this story because we've watched Hollywood. Remember Michael Jackson's transformation? It's unbelievable if you look at him as a kid and an adult before he passed. But I had a little bit of personal involvement. I knew...
I don't think he was a pervert, by the way.
I don't really either, but
I digress.
I digress as well. That's interesting. We come to the same conclusion because, I usually think everyone's guilty.
Yeah, same.
So there was this young lady, not that old, and she had a low self-esteem. Now, this is important for later, but she became more and more obsessed with our favorite word, Hollywood, that we were just talking about. Mm-hmm. And she began to over and over compare herself to models and people on TV, celebrities. Yeah. So she she saved a ton of money. Like, we're talking about sacrifice to get this money. She ended up with Botox, lip injections. And I don't think there might have been a tummy tuck, but not a butt lift. I don't think that was a big thing. This has been a long time ago. But you can figure out what happened next. It was botched.
Oh, no.
And changed facial features and did not even look like herself. And for some reason, she never talked about it, but I knew someone that knew her and told me about the fact that she became obsessed with her looks and all of that. And then there's a botched surgery, so then she started saving money again, and I moved away, and I've lost touch.
So where was this?
There's probably multiple surgeries. Well, it's when I lived in West Virginia, but she lived in Maryland.
Okay. And do you know if she did it in the United States?
Friends of friends. Yes. I say that, Kristin. I think so because she wasn't gone long or anything. It didn't seem to be travel. So,
oh my gosh, it's horrifying.
But it happens more than you think. But also when you get that, your low self-esteem, it causes you to do just crazy things. And this is why we're doing this, is because some of these companies, they monopolize on that insecurity. Yeah. They're selling you a version of yourself that may not help anything.
Yeah, true. Oh, anyway. That is so sad. So it was botched, and what actually happened? Like, what was your involvement?
The botched was, I had ran into the person and barely recognized them. That was my involvement. And I knew, I was like, whoa, You know.
I thought this was your international crime story.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
I was like, that's why I was like, wait, where'd she get it done? In like Tijuana or something? Because a lot of people go there. Oh wow, that's crazy. So that is sad. All right, so this is a 2-part. Sorry, Ron.
Yeah.
We're gonna hit that later.
Yeah.
But no, that is really sad when you see that, because then it's like the attention they're getting is now more negative than it was before.
That really did help me understand your line of questioning when you were asking where she got it done.
You're like, wow, I don't know.
Kristin wants specifics here. You needing something done, Kristin? Is that what
I'm like, international, where'd she in West Virginia? I don't know. Oh goodness, poor thing. Okay, let me lay it out. Let's go back to the what of the commercial here, because we're gonna dive into it. So Hims. Well, you guys have probably seen, anyone listening's probably seen at least one commercial, the Hims, and there's hers. It's a major telehealth brand, and they're running massive Super Bowl ads, right? 2 years in a row. That is big money, but that comes along with big emotions, big promises, right? I punned again.
Yeah, that's right. You did.
I'm on a roll here.
You're the punster.
Yeah.
So what Hims sells is weight loss medication, hair loss treatment. Oh, and then there's the old sexual health medication, and then hormone, men's health. Mm-hmm. And the sexual health, I see those on Instagram, and they advertise it totally different than they used to, believe me.
More risque or what?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
they almost
crazy.
always, they have the female talking about it, not the male.
Oh, got it. Okay,
Yeah.
They're like, we're going to switch it up. Hey, I will say their marketing, they do a great job. They almost dominate their space.
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt about that.
Back to the Super Bowl ad. So it was a 30-second commercial slot. And to put it into perspective, I think it's important that people understand the cost involved. So for 30 seconds, it's going to run you around $8 million. If not more, right? Like I was trying to find some pricing. And this is like the last 2-year average. So who knows? Could be more expensive at this point. And their message seemed simple. We're here for the people, which is always the phrase that should make you pause, in my opinion.
Yeah, no kidding. For the people usually means don't ask questions.
Yeah. I mean, that's what like dictator leaders have always been like, better together, right? Like it's always these slogans about
we're raising taxes for you.
Yeah, for you. Oh, speaking of New York City tax increase on the way, property tax increase. Yep. You got to love when people that don't even own a home vote somebody in, and then the person they vote in decides to tax the people that didn't vote for them, for the majority. Anyways, that's a whole other episode. But it's basically like saying we're here for the people. It's like the corporate version of trust me, bro.
Yeah, they should be required to put that on the bottle, on the prescription. Trust me, bro. Mm-hmm. We got your back.
There you go. We got you, bro. And let me remind you guys that we are one of 2 countries where pharma ads are actually legal. And that says a lot. That's the United States and New Zealand, the only 2 in the world.
Exactly. Pairing that with the fact that the Super Bowl is watched by approximately, brace yourself, 127 to 130 million people. That's huge. No pun intended. This is a pun episode. Maybe we should advertise on the Super Bowl, Kristin, the podcast. But
oh my gosh, yeah. Pull up that $8 million.
Yeah.
All right. So leadership, I think it's important that we reflect on this. Leadership isn't the launch, it's the aftermath. And just like a recent guest, Will Carr, he said the only person willing to invest in an idea is you. And it's so true. You need results.
Yeah, you really do. And I'll tell you what, break it down from a health and human services perspective for us and some of the other government agencies.
Well, so we have what we're coming to here is the government referral that was made regarding this commercial. So let me just start with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, formally referred Hims and Hers Health Incorporated to the Department of Justice, the DOJ, for investigation. Now, that referral cites potential violations of the Federal Drug and Cosmetic Act and related federal statutes tied to how Hims markets and sells compounded weight loss drugs. So that's a lot there, but there was a referral made. So that means they're looking into it. And this referral followed concerns that Hims is promoting unapproved copycat GLP-1 medications, including an oral semaglutide pill without FDA approval or publicly available evidence of effectiveness. So that's the referral that's causing quite a buzz in the industry.
Yeah, and the DOJ referral is not a conviction, but it signals the federal regulators believe issues are serious enough to, warrant formal investigation. Now, of course, if you're a conspiracy theorist, you're going to go, these companies have so much money, nothing will ever happen. But occasionally something does happen, and maybe that'll be the case if they deserve it.
Yeah, we'll see. And, I want to get into the psychology. When leaders don't have certainty, they lean into emotion, which is absolutely what's been done here. And when they don't have proof, they lean into story.
No, that's exactly right. And when they don't have scrutiny, they lean into moral superiority. And that is definitely what we're seeing with the Super Bowl ads and other things.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's basically, if you question us, you must hate poor people. That's really what they're doing.
I know, it's crazy. It just sounds so shocking. It's true, because they're making it affordable, right? And so, then you must have something against you. You don't want everyone to be able to get their hands on it.
Yeah, and because of the popular nature of social media and the internet and all the things that we have, we are involved in a psyop. And I don't want people to think I'm crazy. I'm talking about a psychological operation. And how do you know? When you hear people say the same words, same themes, and the biggest thing is you're not allowed to question it. You're either on this tribe or that tribe. Don't question. Don't have an individual opinion. That's when you know you're in a psyop. And Kristin, we really are.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's really interesting if people do research into it. Because I've been researching this stuff since 2020, and it's wild, the tactics that are used. I think it's important, like, if we think about it, just to go back a little bit here, women, progress, science. I mean, what you're talking about, Ron, it's like pick your label at this point and what angle they're going to take. So, Ron, I want you to tell us a story about watching an organization drift from mission to messaging manipulation.
Kristin, there's no way to do this without bringing up the pandemic.
I know, right?
If you want to pull back the curtain on a psyop, we saw it. It started, with fear. People are dying everywhere, and then they began, they come up with the great answer that was almost divine. Talk about moral superiority. There were doctors silenced who had concerns about the vaccination. And then people were forced to take the vaccination in certain environments, including the military. And then people were demonized for not taking it. And it literally, you could just watch that curtain open and you began to see all this unfolding from the fact that they tried to make people believe that these ineffective masks were actually doing something, the distance, all the things that happened there was definitely one of the best cases of manipulation and messaging and a psyop that we've ever seen. It was unbelievable.
It really was. And even if you think about it, even like the Black Lives Matter movement, right? That's all aside. People want to belong. I live in Portland, Oregon, so I see a lot of these it's like, what's popular this month? What can I go protest this month? And it changes month over month. And that is part of it. They were able to see that you can get people to get in line, and you invoke that through emotion. That has been a wild ride. And, the problem is with a lot of this is populism works best when people are desperate. And going back to the weight loss is desperation territory.
Boy, it sure is. And that's what makes this a leadership issue, not a marketing one.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk mechanics, Ron. So how does leadership cross the line without realizing or pretending not to?
Yeah, and I think this could potentially intersect with the vaccine again, but you scale faster than your certainty. There was that warp speed that we were talking about to get this vaccine out. You borrow credibility instead of earning it. We saw Dr. Fauci step up, and everyone just made him this high moral authority. And we now know that a lot of the statements he made, he didn't believe himself. And then step 3, you confuse visibility with validation. And that's just a few things that we saw happening. So just because you see something that looks good doesn't mean that it is good.
Right,
There's your
exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Ron, I think this is a good time for you to share that international crime story that we've talked about. And, because I feel like that segues into where you could see a process or product pushed before leadership was ready to actually own the consequences.
Yeah, Kristin, there was this popular drug. It was shortly known, I won't even try to pronounce it, but it was shortly known as Fen-Phen. And it was this mega weight loss drug. And a Dr. Pieter, and it's Pieter Hitzig, was arrested in West Virginia after he had fled. He had been indicted in federal court for selling this stuff throughout the world. And it basically had all kinds of health issues, and it was already had been banned and flagged and all of that. So he continues to sell it.
Yikes.
He flees after he gets indicted. They arrest him at his mother's home in West Virginia. So one of the things that I did was United States Pretrial Services. So once someone is brought into the Marshals, the U.S. Marshals, and fingerprinted, U.S. Pretrial is the first to interview them. So I walk into the office, and I did mention this part one time, Kristin. There were these couple of DEA guys from D.C., and they're sitting there, and usually they will share the basic information with us, date of birth, social security number, identifying factors, all that stuff. So I asked them, and they go, "We don't share our materials." And I said, "Oh, okay." So then I was going back. They goes, "He won't talk to you." I said, "Well, thanks to the information." So I go back, and I'm friends with the marshals.
Now it's your personal challenge.
Yeah, now I'm ready to slap some DEA agent. The U.S. Marshal and I were friends, the deputy U.S. Marshal that worked downstairs. So I go back, and I don't know how I thought of this, but I looked him up, by the way, so I knew who I was interviewing. So I said, "Dr. Hitzig," I told him who I was. He goes, "Yeah, I don't want to talk. I'm waiting on my attorney." I said, "Well, I'm just determining bail. I just need basic information from you, and I'm either going to make a bail recommendation or not." I said, "I never sugarcoat things. That's just where I stand." He said, "Yeah, I don't want to talk to you." I said, "Well, since you don't want to talk, let me just ask you a personal question." I said, "I read an article that you did, and you talked about spirit, soul, and body." I said, "I believe that we're spirit, we have a soul, and we live in a body." He literally, Kristin, he stood up and he leaned against the bar and he goes, "Where were you trained?" And he had a real heavy accent. I said, "Well, mine's a biblical perspective." We start chatting. Next thing I know, he gives me date of birth, social security. I did the whole interview. So I'm back there like an hour and a half. I come walking out. Here's the big DEA guys sitting there, and they go, "What's going on? You were back there like an hour and a half." I said, "Yeah, I interviewed him." They said, "You did?" They said, "Well, good. We need some identifying information." I couldn't help it, Kristin. I said, "Yeah, I don't share my information with other agencies." And I walked out the door.
Good for you.
I'd love to have seen their face. But that's the truth that happens in the government egos.
Oh my
and that's why a lot of things aren't communicated. But I knew they would get it eventually.
Yeah,
But,
that is wild, Ron.
Yeah, it's a cool story.
That is cool, especially when someone's like, "Yeah, you're not going to be able to achieve this," and then you go back and make it happen.
Yeah,
my goodness.
It was interesting.
That is wild. I'm glad you shared that with us.
Hey, Kristin, let's jump to some leadership takeaways from this.
Yes, let's give them the goods.
All right.
I love it. All right. Leadership takeaway number 1, if your product needs ideology to survive, it's already failing.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right?
Number 2, access without accountability isn't compassion, it's negligence.
Yes, that's a huge one right there because they're playing on emotions.
Yeah.
Compassion. Number 3, marketing does not replace proof ever. Ugh.
Kristin, if someone asked me, when I became an entrepreneur, when I retired from the government, became an entrepreneur, if you ask me what I learned the most the first year, it would be marketing does not replace proof. I literally had a marketer that started telling me how you manipulate. You can make, here's an example, Kristin, I can have a product and I can literally send myself a text that says this is the greatest product that I've ever used in my entire adult life. I make up a name, boom, I put it up there. This is the greatest product I've ever, and no one questions it.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Because it's on the internet. It must be true.
And when it's opinion, you can't really get proof, right, from an opinion. So, and that's why social media and all of the influencing, that's why it's so valuable. It works well. I'm not saying it's the right thing all the time, but man, you just get someone's opinion out there and people think it's proof. Scientific.
It's true. All right. So people will forgive mistakes. They will never forgive being lied to.
That is so true. I mean, I've talked about that before, Ron, even when clients would come in and they would ask a question and I would see one of my employees make up an answer instead of just saying, I don't know, let me find out for you. The trust is broken at that point. They're usually like looking over at the manager like, did you hear that? Right? Because they know it wasn't the truth. So yeah, when you lie to somebody, it's done. But people do forgive mistakes. And that's to your point, especially when you're asking them to swallow something, a pill. I mean, come on, like that's going into the body. Like, let's be a little more careful here.
You know, Kristin, the snake oil salesman, we've all heard that old phrase. That was happening early in the 1900s. They would put anything literally in a bottle and they would sell it that it cures all these diseases. And people took it hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
And
people were desperate then too.
But now we've got snake oil salespeople on a much broader scale. I mean, exponential growth because of internet and social media. So
exactly. And at least back then the ingredients were probably something as simple as like olive oil, or I don't even know what they were sticking in there.
You're right. Yeah.
And now it's actually
alcohol.
like extremely toxic what they're putting in now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And the final takeaway is leadership is restraint. Not everything that can be monetized should be.
Yeah, and that's the difference between influence and integrity.
Absolutely. If this episode made anyone listening uncomfortable, good. That's where growth lives.
Yeah, folks, please do your research in the world of AI, which we're going to be talking about very soon. Yeah. It's hard to tell what's real and what's not. You know, there was an old commercial, is it real or is it Memorex? Now, is it real or is it AI? And,
yes.
I had someone ask me the other day, what's the greatest advice you would give my daughter? And I told her discernment. You need discernment because it's going to be really difficult to tell real from fake. It's going to be difficult to tell if this is something good for me or harmful. Or just posts on social media. Is this true? Did this really happen? Let me dig deeper. So be careful, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. I almost fell for one the other day, Ron, and it was a political one. But I screenshot it and then I go to Grok and then I go to ChatGPT and I make sure that they go and find that it's legitimate or that it's fake. And I think more people need to be doing that.
Yeah, and here's a message for all of the companies out there. You need to ask yourself this: am I earning trust or just borrowing it? Because if you borrow it, you will lose it.
Yes, yes. Oh, beautifully said. Well, everyone, I appreciate you listening. Please share, like, and on our social media page, comment. And we always want to know if you have something you want us to break down, if you want us to build an episode around an idea that you have, by all means, DM one of us and share it. And we'd be happy to look into it.
Absolutely. All right, everyone, be the leader you're meant to be.
We'll see you next week.
The Dirty Side of Leadership podcast is brought to you by Forward Operations. If you'd like to book Ron or Kristin for speaking events, training, or executive coaching, visit forwardoperations.com. Be the leader you're meant to be.